speakers and you're live now.
Okay, I will call to order the August 15th, 2004 meeting of the Ware Ethics Committee, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, I sent out an agenda. Do we have any amendments?
None here?
None?
Okay, great. Having none, Carl sent out the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have any amendments?
Pretty long minute. I think it was about an hour, but I tried to write a lot of stuff in from the two filings, electronic filings.
I appreciate
Brief
that.
summaries that were given by Luke when he read them out, so.
That was great. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to accept?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any amendments? All those in favor of approving the minutes? say
Aye.
Aye, aye, great. Communications, let's see, we did get an email back after the last one regarding this whole, is the implementation part of the code? I believe everybody get a copy of that. And then I have one, but I'm gonna just push that to the end. So anybody else get communications?
I read the one from Greg Smith.
You
Yeah,
got that?
yeah.
Okay.
And I've been reading, his stuff, and then I know we've talked before about the ethics committee. Pretty much, we just advise the select board, and take opinions. He was talking about power, subpoena power. But I looked at the code of ethics, and when people sign it, they just say that if there's an ethics thing that you would comply, or, not comply, but like work with the ethics committee. There's a section under honesty that talks about what people will do if there's an ethics
Right,
thing, if you're the complainer or the defendant, or,
right. Yeah, there's a bunch of processes that we worked on for quite a bit. But to your point, we do not have a subpoena power. We're an
Right.
advisory only,
Yeah,
that's true.
so,
Yep,
and I believe other committees exist in other towns that, again, are just advisory. We're not a legal,
right.
Didn't Greg make a suggestion that we bring the implementation section to town meeting to have it formally adopted, since there seems to be some dispute?
Yeah, he wanted it
Have that-
formally adopted with the addition of the conflict of interest wordage or verbiage that was in there, in his email.
Right. So, yeah, anything can be brought to warrant, right? So there's a petition and a process, and the town can advise on that if people have that desire.
I thought his suggestion was that the committee do that, rather than
That is his suggestion, yeah.
he as an individual.
Sure, that was his suggestion.
Right.
Yep.
Any interest in doing that?
Not
Because
I.
as things stand right now, the committee seems to have accepted what I thought was a very incompetent legal opinion, that the implementation section was not adopted by the town, was adopted by the committee, and the committee could change it any way it wishes.
So I did a lot of research. I have 4 pages that I'm going to read at the end of the day. That's in this, and then the board can do with whatever they want with that. So that's,
You want to do that later, then?
I did, yeah, yeah. Okay, so next topic was the existing complaint. So I did reach out to the complainant, and he responded. Did you guys get that email?
Yes.
You did, yeah?
Yes.
Basically, in short, saying that he did not, let's see if I have it. Do you have a copy, Carl?
Right here.
Thank you. Completed and met everything and will cooperate with the Ethics Committee. form was pre-checked and allowed no input from me regarding exhausting all avenues. It's a bit convoluted. In the past, I've spoken during public comment with the select board. As you know, the board's not in the habit of speaking during this time, and at times I've approached them. I did not receive a response or evidence, or that they even acknowledged my concerns. Knowing that, I'm reluctant to approach them again about these specific changes in ethics, but I don't believe they address it. In the past, they've gone so far as to I've sent emails to them, again, what appears to fall in deaf ears. Right? So my task was to reach out and see that he would have checked each one of those, and that is what he said he's done to ameliorate the issues. And so that was the one question we were waiting to see if we want to move forward on those complaints or not. And so I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
There are two different complaints. The one complaint against the three, and then a complaint against a single member.
Right.
I appreciate the fact that Bruce has spoken in public comment, perhaps on this issue, although he wasn't clear on that.
I believe he did on the May issue, but not the June issue.
And so, our decision in this instance is going to set a precedent. And so I think we need to be cognizant of of what the consequences might be. If we were to accept what Bruce said as having met the guidelines, then basically anyone who had a complaint against the selectman wouldn't have to do anything. In essence, that's what Bruce is saying. He's, in other instances, he's tried communication, it hasn't worked. He didn't do it in this case, he doesn't think it would if he did.
Yeah, a slight clarification, there was two instances, there was a May and June. He did speak up at the select board for the May issue, but not the June issue.
The May issue was which one, the 3 or the 1?
It was the first 3, right? There was 2 different dates that he put in his complaint, and I gotta see if I have it printed out. Too many papers. Sorry. This committee is the only place where I have paper. Everything else is nicely organized in folders, but this is so old school. All right, let's stop this. Say what? The one, the single one was May, the other one, the 3 was June. Okay, thank you. So he spoke out for the May issue, which is the complaint against a single person,
He
and,
spoke out in public comment,
yes,
and nothing happened.
correct. And then his second, okay, here we go.
The second one he wrote for the June 17th meeting for the Board of Selectmen.
Right, and so that one, he has not spoken to them.
Correct.
Well,
But I think he wrote in the email to you that there was something about if he sent something, it would go on deaf ears or,
It's his belief,
right.
yep,
He has a history of trying to deal with these folks, and he has certain experiences.
a lot
Right.
of times, no reply to his email
Right.
or his
right.
question or concern. But on the form, it says that what actions you've taken to resolve it, and it says it might include but are not limited to. It doesn't say you have to do every one of them.
Right. So I guess the question is, do you feel that we can move forward with the May issue and the June issue, ask him to send a letter or somehow approach the Board of Selectmen, or do you feel that?
No, that's exactly what I would do.
Okay.
I think the May issue, he's made a reasonable effort by making a public statement, I got a problem here. And he did it, and there was no response. I think that's reasonable.
Okay. And
But
then,
for the other one, I think it's got, at least has to do the same thing.
okay. Carl, what do you think?
I agree
Do you
with
agree? Okay.
Neil on that.
All right.
I don't have, seem not to have a copy of the
I was
complaint.
just thinking that. I had it last time. I don't know where my stuff is.
Would you send that to us again when we get home?
Yeah, I have a digital copy. I just didn't
Yeah.
print one out. But- Okay.
Okay.
So then the action item would be to reach out to Bruce. I believe he said he's gonna watch this, and
Yep.
then you'll need to schedule a pre-hearing for that one issue, and then advise him on the second issue.
Wendy, you can give these to Neil.
Thank you.
I have them on my computer, so those are the two complaints.
Are these for me to keep?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
I had little notes on them, but that was,
That's fine. Thank you.
okay.
So our procedure is to schedule this preliminary conference.
With,
A
right.
is it like a pre-hearing?
Pre-hearing for the purposes of scheduling.
Okay.
It's not a finding the truth, that comes in the hearing. And there's actually two pre-hearings. You need to notice that the person who's been complained against, and then have a pre-hearing with them. They can also waive to not participate in the hearing. There's a form for that. And then from there, when we have the availability, you would schedule the hearing.
Okay.
That's what the process is.
And on the pre-hearing, are we all in attendance, or is it a subcommittee?
Well, it's interesting, right? So I think because it's a sort of non-public scheduling, non-meeting sort of thing, I think if you don't have quorum, you don't have to post it, because once you have 3 or more people, it's a public meeting unless you go non-public. And so we've talked about having a couple people or everybody, and then it's non-public when you meet logistics.
But as far as the ethics committee,
Mm-hmm.
when we receive a complaint, eventually we all
Yes, so the
put in
pre-hearing.
our opinion for the final,
Absolutely, no, the pre-hearing is literally what days are you available, are you going on vacation, how many?
Pre-hearing is the wrong term, because when you say
Right.
hearing, it sounds.
Of course, yep,
It's a scheduling meeting.
okay.
right, scheduling meeting, and also find out how many, like witnesses, and how long the case may take, just so that you know how much time to put aside for that meeting. So it's a logistical, it's not a,
I mean, there's some stuff in the complaint I have no history of,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know a lot of the Ware history, only living here 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
so that will come
Well,
out in the
and-
hearing.
right.
If you have questions or research, you
correct.
can also,
Because, there wasn't enough information from me
Mm-hmm.
here to, research or go into what he was talking about in
Right.
the complaint.
right, so they'll have the scheduling meetings to figure out when people are available, have the
Okay.
hearing where both sides bring their witnesses' thoughts, views of things. At that point, you can either rule that day, or you can take time, ask more questions, and then not rule, quote unquote. It's not a ruling because we're not a judicial body, but if we need more time to think about it or talk about things or look into things ourselves, you could schedule the response of the board to the next meeting.
Is there any specific format that you have, like, on your checklist for these hearings, or?
No, I mean, we had a lot, we've had many discussions, many ideas, but this is gonna be the first case where you sort of
Okay.
get to figure that out. There was a meeting, oh my gosh, probably like 6 months ago. I think we said that the chair would ask the people to speak. And this is the policy EC D3, the one that's on the hearing, and it talks about, like, who can speak and not talk across at each other and that sort of thing. But other than that, the script of the day has not really been vetted.
But that's online, those forms, so
Yes.
that Bruce and anyone else
Sure.
could be aware of them for the scheduling meeting.
Right,
Okay.
right. Okay, so I don't know if someone wants to own scheduling those, or maybe logistically through the email, since half the board's not here, chair's not.
Right. I mean, I'm a secretary for
Yeah?
the
I mean, if
committee.
you wanna reach out
I
to-
can reach out to Bruce
Yeah,
and try to arrange a time for him to meet us here.
and Neil, do you think that should be a non-public with the entire committee, or do you think it should be a subset of the committee, so it's not quorum because it's just logistical in nature?
The latter.
The latter, okay. So meet with you and one other committee member to
Okay.
just figure out when, how much time he's gonna need to prepare his case and what witnesses and that sort of
So
thing.
once I get a time set up, then I'll reach out to you and the rest of the board
And ask for
Committee.
one other volunteer.
and ask for one other volunteer
Yep,
to get his statement
Yep.
and other questions answered.
right. And then the other half of that is writing the person who's been complained against and just letting them know there's a complaint, getting them a copy and asking them to have a scheduling meeting with you.
Okay, and I'll send that out to
Okay.
Selectman Pratt.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, and I'll try to get it done by tomorrow. I'll reach out to Bruce tomorrow
Okay,
and then send the information or the copy of the complaint to Selectman Pratt.
thank you so much.
Okay.
That's great. Okay. Good, that's exciting. After a couple of years of sort of working towards this, actually vetting that process, that's great. Okay, my next one was, we had, our complaint form had some check boxes, but they weren't check boxes. And I don't know, I can't remember, Bruce, yeah, Carl, were you gonna work with Naomi on updating that, or?
I did send you a couple of the new forms to throw onto the website probably a couple months ago.
Oh, but
But
the complaint form has those pictures of check boxes, but not check boxes. Right, yeah.
Right.
So we need to change that and send you a copy, I think. Is that what you need? You have it in Word? Unchecked, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
On any of the forms that says already pre-checked, just
Mhm.
check when they boxes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the next topic is new meal, which we didn't have any. Then spring training, but without Luke, he was sort of driving that force, so that one might be tabled till September unless one of you have updates on that.
No.
Okay. Okay. So that brings it up to me. So, I'm so proud of this board and what we've accomplished in the last 2 years. It's been a joy to be part of this. Unfortunately, this is my last meeting, and so I wrote, many of the things we talk about in this committee are really nuanced and subtle and legal in nature, and sometimes it can be sort of hard to tease out those nuances. So what I did is as my last sort of addressing, I wanted to sort of write up my views on this Ware Ethics Code implementation. And you guys do what you want with them. This is just my view. This isn't for debate. This is, okay, so bear with me. The committee chairperson's role is one as facilitator. They're charged with planning and running a meeting, allowing for respectful discussion while keeping on track with the agenda. While the chairperson has a role, they have no more power than any other member. As chair of the Ware Ethics Committee, I take the role of neutral facilitator seriously. As such, I've attempted not to drive personal positions, but instead foster a tone where all members can contribute. When it comes to the Ware Code implementation, I've struggled to balance my need to educate while allowing all members a voice. This issue is extremely nuanced and can be difficult to tease out. As this is my last meeting, I'd like to take a couple minutes to share my perspectives. As the committee carries on, they may choose to do with this what they will. There is a difference between a code or a policy and its implementation. This division allows elected and/or appointed committee members latitude to adjust day-to-day operations as requirements in society changes. Using the school board as an example, because y'all know that's where I've been for the last dozen or so years, federal and state legislatures create laws. The school board's role is to ensure the district stays in compliance with it via policy. These policies are then used by the school administration to implement procedures which guide day-to-day running of the schools. At each level, there are requirements with some latitude to implement them. The school board self-governs. The makeup of the board, the rules for the meetings, etc. are set by the board policies. Voters have the ultimate power to overrule any of the above, either by warrant or by not re-electing the officials who did what they didn't want them to do. Once an article is enacted by warrant, it cannot be undone except by warrant. With that all said, this is my perspective on the history of the Ware Ethics Committee related warrants and articles. In 2005, Article 40 said, shall the town adopt a code of ethics which applies to all town officers, elected officials, appointed committee officials, members, and all town employees. A full detail of the proposed code is available in the town clerk's office during regular business hours and on the town website. As someone who voted for the original article, after reviewing the code of ethics, it was my impression that I was voting for a code and a code alone. While the implementation was on the back page, it had a separate title and was not officially part of the code, in my perspective as a voter. Said title was never listed on the warrant, and as such, it wasn't approved by the voters of Ware. The town attorney has agreed. Once the warrant was approved, the Board of Selectmen had latitude to oversee the code of ethics as they saw fit at the time. As for the document in question, it was authored by the committee. I assume that's how they chose to operate. It's not clear whether the Board of Selectmen officially adopted the document. I see no reference in their minutes. As to whether this committee would exist without the implementation document, I believe they would. Committees are created as needed by most governing bodies. In fact, said committee existed prior to the original article adoption, or else we wouldn't have a code of ethics. Beginning in 2007, there were Ware Ethics Committee seats on the warrant, but no articles overtly called out a committee. In the annual report in 2008, there was a report from the WC stating no complaints that year. After that, there was no reference to this committee other than blank seats that were unfilled. In 2014, the town dissolved the committee via warrant article. At that point, the committee could not be revived without another vote. Article 28 said, shall the town dissolve the Ethics Committee effective March 24, the Code of Ethics will remain in place. The 2002 warrant includes an article that revived the committee. Article 24 said, to see if the town will vote to reinstate the Ethics Committee abolished in 2014. The Ethics Committee implements the Code of Ethics, which was adopted in 2005. It was abolished due to lack of interest in serving in the committee. The Code of Ethics is available on the town website. Because the committee was approved via warrant, it's my perspective, the Ware Ethics Committee now officially exists and cannot be dissolved except by another warrant. This warrant empowered the WC to implement the Code of Ethics, but did not refer to any document implementation requirements. Note this article refers to accessing this Code of Ethics via the website. As of 2023, which is when I first checked, the online copy did not include the implementation content. The reason I bring this up is not to throw away the work of the original committee, but to codify this committee's ability to tweak implementation when necessary. Just like school boards can review and revise their policies, committees should have that ability. The original document called for an annual training for employees. In a town that hires year-round, a delay of up to 11 months to train new employees just doesn't make sense. Based on the legal advice given, I believe the committee can use their judgment to create training that best describes the COE and its processes. I do support the majority of the original implementation document and recommend following it when possible. I have had to resign from this committee due to a newly diagnosed health issue. I recommend the committee follow the original implementation guideline to fill my seat, and it states, should a vacancy in the committee arise, the remaining members of the Ethics Committee shall elect a town citizen to serve out the remainder of the term. At any tie shall be resolved by the town manager. My term expires in April of '26. It has been a pleasure serving on the Ware Ethics Committee. I look forward to watching it continue from the sidelines. I will provide a copy of this document for Carl, and it includes links to my sources of the town reports. And that's it. So, again, completely my perspective. I just wanted to get that on the record, since I've been trying not to do so. Unless there's any questions, I will hereby close the August 5th. Nope.
No, I think if we're following, forgetting about your statement for the moment, if we're following the implementation guidelines, we need to elect a chairman to replace you.
You will need to do that. Yep. I don't know if
At the next meeting?
We could, I agree, it could be done at any time. The committee can function without a chairman, I suppose. But Carl's been given an assignment. If we're to do anything, I would assume he would be reporting back to the chairman and say, I've arranged with so-and-so to meet at such and such a date, and things like this.
Sure.
If we don't elect a chairman tonight, who's going to call the next meeting? And
Okay.
how will that work?
So you could have an interim chair until you have a quorum election, because I would abstain and
Right.
you won't have that. To keep things moving, that's a process. Or you can have a special meeting to elect a chair earlier, if you
What
so
is the
choose.
implementation?
I'm sorry, what did I say?
What did the implementation rules?
It said, all it said was, what I just read, should a vacancy in the committee arise, the remaining members of the Ethics Committee shall elect a town citizen to serve out the remainder of the term. Any tie shall be resolved by a town manager.
But that, I don't remember this, but does the implementation guideline talk about electing a chair?
It does, let's see, it says,
It just says the members of the Ethics Committee
shall elect a chairperson on an annual basis, but it doesn't talk about if the chairperson leaves.
Do you think it would work if we waited till the next meeting?
I do.
Okay.
I do. There's not a lot that goes on between meetings. We all have that group email.
Yeah.
When you send stuff, make sure you send it to Neil's Proton dot,
Oh,
because
okay.
he's not getting the town one, or,
Okay.
I can
sorry.
send you that email link.
So you have called, as chair, you have set the next meeting.
I have.
So all of us will come because the chair has set the meeting. The
Right.
chair, for whatever reason, is not going to be there.
Right, so
but the
September
meeting would-
19th.
The meeting would still go on.
Right. And the first item. So there's two things. First thing you do is vote on a chair, I would suspect. The other one action item, and I think you can be taxed with this, I think, is you're supposed to post your agenda 48 hours before the meeting or 24? 24 hours before, so
And post it via.
send it to Naomi, she
Right.
posts it.
Okay.
Just to be compliant with the law, so
Okay.
Do you have an agenda for the next meeting?
I don't.
Oh.
Oh, so, I mean, you can do the usual,
I can use the existing format and
Yeah,
then
and
add
just-
the
yeah.
item to elect a chairperson, like call to order, and then
Okay.
yeah,
elect a new chairperson.
But if the purpose of publicizing an agenda is to give folks an opportunity to see what the committee is going to do, and if we're going to do a number of other things in addition to electing the chairman, shouldn't the agenda that Carl posts include those things?
right. Yep,
So-
and so there's a few ways you can go about that. You can have a discussion through email, because that's a meeting. But if anyone has agenda items you'd like to cover, if you send it to Carl, he can compile them into an agenda and post that.
but you have a sense of what we need to do for the two complaints at our next meeting. Can you give that to Carl so
I
that he
certainly
can include
can.
that?
Yep,
Give me a rough,
I'll give you a rough agenda,
Rough
and then
agenda.
y'all can change that as,
and are we to put something on the web about the vacancy?
uh,
That would be for the
the next meeting to discuss. So the original implementation said you can elect a resident of Ware. How you do that, how you post it and interview people, or just know somebody and somebody nominates somebody and you just say, yeah, that sounds good. Somebody reaches out to Suzanne and says, please fill this role, like whatever you guys
Right.
choose to do. That process is not defined in the implementation. So you'll probably have to, you don't have to seed it in September. You need to decide how you want to seed it in September, however,
Okay.
right? That's my impression of,
I think that's correct.
yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So at the September meeting, somebody will
Recommend.
occupy the chair
Yeah.
temporarily and hold the election, and then that person will conduct the rest of the meeting.
Right, you might want to, nominate Carl to call the meeting to order, because you can't call it to order without the chair or somebody in that position, right? And if he does that, and then, or you have Naomi do it because there's no chair, and she's like, no, whatever you do, then if your first action is to vote on the chair, once you do that, that person would then continue with the agenda.
So like in the past, if you weren't able to attend a meeting for other reasons, did you assign a temporary chairperson?
No,
You know what I'm saying, like, say I can't make the September meeting, Neil will be the acting chairperson.
I never
Did you ever
officially
do
did that.
any kind of assignment like that?
no, but,
So you could probably do that? I don't know Robert's Rules of Order or anything, I don't know it firmly, but you could,
honestly, I think if either one of you is willing to start the meeting,
yeah,
I can start the meeting.
okay.
yeah.
That-
We'll have Neil start the meeting.
Okay,
He'll be the,
so that's, no,
Okay.
yes, seconded, favored, approved. So he'll start the meeting, you'll post a temporary agenda, I will send you tomorrow, what I
Okay.
think that agenda sort of looks like. The rest of the committee who wishes to amend it will send you feedback, and then 24 hours before, make sure it gets to Naomi so that she can post it.
Yeah, you were doing it on Mondays, because I'm not here on Tuesdays.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
No.
When we were Wednesday, it was always Mondays, and then this week, I think I sent it on Tuesday, but,
as far as the Google Doc folder that you have, is
Yep.
that through the town of Ware, or is that your own?
that was just my own thing, but,
So I have access to it, so I'll just pull the documents. and-
sure. I
and
mean, I don't have any
just pull-
plans of deleting all reality around this committee from my life, so it'll be there, but yeah, certainly you can
I'll
grab
have to pull
copies.
that and then
Yep.
make me manager of the documents.
Yep, that sounds like a great idea.
I'll still need Eileen's PowerPoint presentation of the
Mm-hmm.
training document.
Yep,
You have your latest draft in there, but Eileen said
right, she had
to
some small
mark up.
things she wanted, yep, yep,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
you guys are in good hands.
what about Greg's suggestion? Do you have any sense that this would be something the committee should do? Or do you think it better that Greg do it on his own?
I feel like, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is I think while you can certainly codify some or all of the implementation by warrant, I really believe that the majority of that guideline is a great guideline, but there needs to be some flexibility in how this committee reacts and changes over time. And once you codify it with warrant, you are not allowed to change it without warrant. And so the danger with doing that is, as something happens, like we say, we're supposed to do annual training for employees, that doesn't really make sense. We could tweak it. You could tweak it to say we have a posted training that we update annually. Like you, as long as you have not codified that via warrant, you have some flexibility. And so I think it's up to the committee to determine how they want to proceed with formalizing some
So
rules.
you don't think it's a good idea to codify it, and therefore you don't think the committee should bring a warrant article forward?
That
If
is-
Greg wants to, codify it, then he can do that.
Then he
That's-
can bring the.
that's
the
my-
warrant up.
Belief,
What,
but
I mean, other committees that exist at the town, do they have an implementation document that's codified?
Well,
Does any other committee have that? That you know of?
well, the Finance Committee has a codified, was created with a document that was adopted by town warrant, and it's very specific, and it contains all of the things that you would expect to, the number, how the people are, they're appointed, not elected. They're appointed by the town moderator, but the warrant article that adopted that specified that process.
well, and I think that's fair, right? So if the committee chooses to try to formalize a process and has a chance to review it and determine that, certainly bringing that forward before the town is a reasonable step.
Wendy, one of the reasons why I thought that the implementation had to be codified and had to have been adopted is that we all stood for election, and the election was specified in that document.
Well, the election we stood for was mentioned by seating the committee in 2022. It didn't mention that document per se, right?
No, but the document set up the process which was followed. In other words, if that document hadn't been adopted by the town, where would the authority be to hold that election?
Through the Board of Selectmen, right? They can create a committee.
What you said last Monday night, we just did the energy commission.
Right, that didn't go before the town, but now they're hiring for the Energy Committee because they chose to create that committee. And so that was my interpretation, and I know we see things differently, and that's great.
So the selectmen determined that the following procedure was going to be followed to elect members, that there would be an election. No, the warrant
There were-
article said there had to be an election.
Nope, the warrant article said there had to be a code of ethics, and that, the
No, no.
2022 said, yes.
Said there had to be an election.
It said we were gonna, it said to see if the town will vote to reinstate the Ethics Committee abolished in 24, implements the Code of Ethics. It said nothing about an election. Right? It just said there has to be a committee.
And so your interpretation is that the selectmen looked at the implementation document, which has the election process.
I don't know what they did, because there's nothing in any minutes anywhere that says how they chose to, but,
But presumably, somebody on the board must have decided to follow those rules, as opposed to being required to
Right.
do that.
right,
Had the rules, had the implementation section been adopted by the town meeting.
right. That was my interpretation.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I understand your position.
Thank you. So I will send you a rough agenda. Neil will start at the next meeting, and then I think the big topics is a new chair. You probably should, and I'll put that on the agenda, determine what you want to do with the implementation. Do you want to try to get it codified? Do you want to make a
Greg?
similar new implementation and review it with people and get it on the agenda? Or do you want, whatever y'all want to do? I think that's probably worth talking about.
I think you made a reasonable case, and hence, you don't want the committee to go forward with bringing this to the public. Greg may if he wishes. Would the committee have to take a formal vote in some way that these are the rules we're adopting?
I think that would be a good idea.
In the back, or the 3-page document that we have down at the town clerk's office, it just says, this ordinance, the implementation document.
Ordinance.
they call it an ordinance, shall become effective 60 days after its adoption by the voters of the town of Ware. And so,
And I
you know,
think
that's the part that's,
that's the nuance piece, right?
that really bothered Luke, saying, this says this is an ordinance. And then we talked about what it takes to pass an ordinance in the town. If you have a
Right.
certain population, the Board of Selectmen can do it. If you don't have that population, then you gotta have the people vote.
Right. And so, you know, I think that's where this has come down, and I think everyone has done a great job interpreting it to the best of their abilities, and unfortunately, there's no crystal clear calling it out, so it's left to interpretation. So, I think, yes, you should either adopt that ordinance, if that's gonna be your guidelines, or with amendments, or, I do think that will make it easier moving forward if you all have agreed on the implementation, for sure.
Yeah, because when you did the election for the committee members in 2022, right? You had, it said initially the town moderator shall appoint 5 residents. You know,
That was the 2004, yeah.
Right, but our implementation document, if you're talking about this, was voted upon initially.
I don't think that was voted on.
Right, but
That's what- yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the way it should have been done is that there should have been appointments by the town moderator for the initial committee members.
Right.
But
and
we
I-
didn't do that.
Well, I don't know that, I think.
We had a vote, there was a vote.
Well, in 2004, I believe it was appointed, and then it became on, then there was positions voted on by the town. And there was a couple positions on the ballot and a bunch of empty positions, and that never got filled.
Right. Because so like in 2006, they set up initial committee, and then the next step, it says, beginning in March of 2007, the voters of the town shall elect residents to fill open positions on the ethics committee for 3-year terms. So you had
Right.
your initial 1-year term, 2 members, 2-year term, 2 members, 3-year term.
Right.
And then you voted for the 1-year term person in 2007 with a 3-year term, and then the
And
following
staggered
year,
it,
you had
right?
2 people you had to
Yeah.
fill.
And I think the problem in 2022 is it didn't say we want to follow that process. And
Correct.
so I think there was a misunderstanding of, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like because the town moderator didn't seat it after the election, it wasn't called out in the warrant, and so I think there was some uncertainty about how that would happen. So then in 2023, right, we had a 1-year position, 2-year position, 3-year position with the goal of getting everyone back to 3-year positions. But the town moderator was not involved the second time around.
Okay. Yeah, so that's something that's different in this.
Right, and so I think Neil makes a great point, that by codifying whatever implementation you believe to the best of your abilities that you can agree upon, and then, once you do that, having the voters vote on it, so you don't have to keep litigating this every 3 years, is a very smart idea. Because anytime something's documented, it makes it easier. Like, if everyone agrees on the rules, it makes it easier than trying to reinterpret years after all those people are not here. So, that would be my advice.
Okay.
Wait, did I hear you just say something contrary to what you said before? Before you said
No,
the
it was-
committee should not?
No, I should not codify that. Should not just, Bonnie, take that to the voters. I think you should discuss what your implementation is. It
And
may
then
be-
take that to
And then
the-
take that to the voters.
I see.
So that, because you and Greg are right. It's much easier when we all agree on the rules and it's clear what everyone's doing. I just think because it hasn't, my interpretation, it hasn't gone before the town, you guys need to agree what that is, and then I would bring that to the town to formalize it, sure. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, good. Anything else?
That's it, thank you,
Okay.
Madam
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your
Thank you for your
time,
service.
Chair.
Thank you, it's been a joy.
You lived up to your neutral
Yeah,
standard.
Thank you.
And were very helpful in moving us along when some of us including me, would have gotten stuck. And it's much appreciated. Thank you.
so much. Okay, with that said, I hereby close my last War Ethics Committee, the meeting of August 15th, 2024.